Welcome to the Practice Squad podcast. I am John. I'm joined by my co host, Mark, and I'm home for the holidays, so you don't get my usual office background. But due to Mark getting the privilege and honor to take the ACT officially, now that we lost our bet, I decided to, get that as my background here. So, Mark, what are your opinions on that? How are you feeling about that Lions win? And have you been hitting the books pretty hard, studying, trying to see how high of a score you can get?
I've already been hitting the books, John. I've hit the books. I accepted defeat right when it happened. Most of the game, I kind of figured they were gonna find a way to win. It just seemed like they were the better team. Um, man, I don't even know. Like it kind of sucks. I don't want to go take the ACT. I just keep thinking about it. Like I just keep thinking like I'll look like Billy Madison in just a room full of teens. Um, and I'll just be in there with like a fully grown beard and like who knows what shirt John's gonna make me wear. And I'm not gonna feel really good about it. I'm gonna hate myself during that. But on a positive note, another Lions win, and I'm actually probably a lower chance that they don't make the playoffs at this point with the remaining schedule, with how they've played, with the Giants and Commanders how they've looked, with Seattle how they've looked, and what their remaining schedules are. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like they probably will go 2-1. I don't know which game they'll lose the Lions in these last three, but it just feels like they're going to get in with 2-1. As long as and they might win all three. I mean, they have a decent chance to win all three as well. That game in Lambeau is shaping up to be pretty damn important, which is going to be sweet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's going to be super exciting for you, and I agree. I mean, I think they can go and win out, right? And I think the toughest challenge ahead of them probably is that game in Lambeau. But I guess we'll see what happens, right? In the NFL, you can't take any game for granted. We're definitely going to get into that because that story rings loud and true this week of all weeks, especially. You can be up 33-0 at halftime and still blow the game, as we've learned. So excited to get into it that. And last thing, Mark, do you actually plan on trying to get a higher score than that? Because I think somebody in the comments decided to set the line at 26 and a half.
There's been a lot of we'll have to work on an official line because I've gotten as low as 17. I've gotten as high as 30. I've had people like there's some people that believe in me and some people that doubt me. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how many 24-year-olds take the ACT or if that's ever happened. Um, I took the ACT several times in high school. I got a 23, a 23, a 26, and a 29.
I
So
didn't realize you took it 4 times.
yeah, actually, I messed up the order. I got a 26 the first time I took it, then 23, 23, and then I took it as a senior just for shigs to see if I could get more scholarship money academically, and I got a 29. And that was the time I thought I did the worst. I came home, I told my mom, I was like, that was a waste of time and money. And I got the best score by far that I ever got. So I don't know. I feel like I'll give it my all. Um,
I mean,
I'm
if you're gonna spend however long 3-4 hours of your life taking it, you might as well give it your best effort. And
right. Hey, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Moderation is for cowards. I'm gonna give it
I
my all.
agree.
What if I get a 36? I might have to change, alter my life. I might have to go back to med school, become a doctor, or a
Yeah,
lawyer or
right.
something.
Because the test will actually like it instantly boost your IQ once you
Oh,
know
for
that you
sure.
got a 36 on it. So
Dude, yeah, I mean, it's gonna change my life. Or worse, if I get like a 20, I might have to take a step back and
yeah, just start working at McDonald's or something.
perhaps.
Right. All right. Well, with that, I think we can kind of get into recapping the games here. Probably the most crazy week of NFL this season, I'd say. And I know we said that I think like 2 weeks ago there was some crazy stuff that happened, but yeah, this was something else. So
We were
also
blessed this weekend, John, with
I'm only rocking
amazing
one
games.
screen here, so unfortunately, my visuals aren't going to be super great because I'm looking at what I'm screen sharing. But regardless, I went 12-4. Mark went 11-5. The reason why Mark stopped or didn't go 12-4 is because he picked a tie for Giants Commanders, which I have opinions on that, and I'm sure we'll get into because that sure as hell could have gone into overtime if it wasn't for a couple officiating calls, in my opinion. So could have been right. Um, yeah, so starting off with the San Fran Seahawks game, I mean, my biggest takeaway from that game is that the 49ers probably have the best defense in the league. I think just with the way that Dallas has kind of crumbled a little bit, they definitely have the best defense in the NFC, and then you could maybe make an argument for the Broncos. But they're playing so fast. Bosa is incredible. Fred Warner's incredible too. And the Seahawks, who have actually been a pretty decent offense this entire year, just could not score against them. So, really awesome game. And again, the 49ers in November, December are just a team you don't want to play. It's as simple as that.
Brock Purdy, unbelievable start to his Mr. Irrelevant career. Um, you can't say enough about how tough that is to just come into that situation and do what he's done. I get that he has a good team around him, but they're banged up on offense. They have some missing pieces, and to not even skip a beat is also give credit to Kyle Shanahan as well. Um, Unbelievable that they're looking the way that they look with a third string rookie Mr. Relevant pick quarterback and missing Debo and some other pieces as well. But crazy win. And they do really do. They look like the best team in the NFC. I mean, people could talk about the Eagles and the Vikings all they want. This team looks like the best team in the NFC. I know that the record doesn't reflect that, but football's a game of momentum, and you gotta hit your peak at the right time to make a run in the playoffs. We've seen so many wild card teams make runs to the Super Bowl and pull it off in the past. And
Right. And
um,
yeah, I mean, record, as we kind of said last week, like record really is not everything, right? Like
no,
the
no, it means
San
nothing once they're in.
Exactly. All you got to do is get into the playoffs, and then you're uh 0-0 every single week. you know. So yeah, I mean, it's just I'd say the biggest weak point is they're not a team that can really play from behind, right? They're a very methodical offense. They can definitely score points with that offense. There's a lot of weapons, but it's burn clock, take your time, be very efficient, chunk yardage plays, right? They're not some of these explosive offenses like you see with the Bills or with Miami or stuff like that. So their defense is their strong suit. This is a team that you could potentially beat if you can, get up a few scores early, but that's going to be a challenge with their defense, obviously. So um, definitely something to keep an eye on there. And moving on to Colts Vikings.
Game of the century, perhaps.
I mean, like the emotional roller coaster that I went on watching this game, going
I
from
had a I had a feeling, John. I had like 33 nothing. I didn't watch the first half. I was actually playing pickup basketball. I got home. I didn't even know the game started, to be honest. I almost had a fantasy total screw up. Luckily, none of my players were involved in that first game. I didn't know there was a
I had a
game
bye
Sunday.
week this week, so it didn't even matter for me because
Well, in one of my leagues, I had a bye week. Don't get ahead of yourself. In the one in my work league, which I didn't pay as much attention to, I had no idea that there was games going. Probably because the league I do care about, um, but it was like, "Wait, what? There's a game going on?" So I raced home, showered, sat down, watched the second half right as the second half started, and I was looking at my brother who was watching it with me, and I was like, and he's a gambling addict and loses more than he wins. And I was like, "Dude, you should probably bet." I was like, "What's the spread? What's the money line? What are the odds?" Like, "You should probably bet. This just has a feel like, Matt Ryan's on the other side. He's no stranger to giving up horrific comebacks."
he's the
Um,
least clutch quarterback of
Dude,
all time,
he was
officially.
he's on the bad side of the two, in my opinion, greatest comebacks of all time.
Not just two greatest comebacks of all time, but I actually read championship game, Super Bowl, regular season, and international games. Matt Ryan is on the losing side of the largest comebacks in all four of those categories. I don't know how that's possible.
That's just horrible. I mean, you almost
I
feel
think
bad for the guy.
the football gods were just like, no, you're cursed. Like,
So, and there's a lot to talk about this game too. I mean, Jeff Saturday, what is his last name? I think it's just Jeff. There
I
is
saw
no
it was CBS NFL account posted something that was like Jeff Saturday is the first coach named Saturday to play on Saturday.
Yeah, well,
That's
let's just
awesome.
hope
And
like
he
he
stinks.
he can't win on Monday night and doesn't know how to use his timeouts. He doesn't win on Sunday nights when he has, gets blown out in the fourth quarter. Uh, and then we are like, okay, well, his name is Saturday. I mean, when they were up 33 nothing, I texted John. I was like, maybe he is Jeff Saturday. I guess we were messing with his name. He's just Jeff Saturday. And then this happened. So I think we just have to call him Jeff,
He's
you know.
Jeff.
He's just Jeff. There was no last name. He doesn't have a last name. He blew it.
No. His only chance is Jeff Thursday because they haven't played a Thursday night
I
game with
yeah,
him,
I
but
guess.
I
Holy,
don't
I
feel good
mean,
about his odds there, so he's
that
just
doesn't
Jeff
sound
until
right either. I mean, it doesn't look good for him. Jeff Thursday sounds like worse. But whole just a terrible. And I'll say this: what a sports weekend! Because I don't know if you watched the World Cup final, and I know this is a football podcast, not a football podcast, but I, for some reason, my little sister was watching it. She's into soccer, and I sat down and watched most of the second half of the final. And I don't know if you've seen it, John. It was like one of the best sports events I've ever watched, bar none. Like it was an unbelievable in soccer terms. Like I don't know a lot about soccer, but the comeback that I witnessed, and then for it to go into overtime, it had 2 goals in overtime by both teams. Just like legendary play by Messi, who's up there in best athletes of all time. And it was, I mean, what France made it one of the best comebacks we've ever seen in sports. And then this happens right after, like literally flip the channel over, and it's this
I
game.
mean, this is literally the best time of the year for sports, and World Cup was definitely icing on the cake. I did watch the game, except I could tell that it was hype in soccer terms, but unfortunately, I literally watched so little soccer that I couldn't really fully appreciate it. But it was still cool.
I
I have an Argentinian classmate, and it was so funny because he was just like messaging in all caps, like "Vamos, ja 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 ja
dude,
ja" into the chat, and I was just so hyped for him.
I
He was going crazy.
I like don't care about soccer. In fact, I don't respect the sport almost like ever. But both my sisters play it, and I've watched some of their games, and I actually
My younger
respect
sister's very good too.
I respect women's soccer way more than men's. I'll say that much too. They play it much tougher, and they did. I feel like the men just flop around way worse, and it's just hard to watch at times. But I watched this game with my sister, and I asked her, and I texted some of my friends that are soccer guys as well. I was like, dude, like I just watched this. I don't watch soccer. Like, did I just watch the best game of all time? He's like, yeah. He's like, and some of my friends are like, yeah, don't ever watch soccer again. You'll never top this. You'll never watch anything better. Like you one and done, ass out. Like you watched the best game that you're ever gonna watch. Like not worth watching soccer ever again. So the question becomes honestly, Colts Vikings that comeback, is that a better comeback? And I know it's different sports, but this is a legitimate debate because I've been thinking about this. And I want to see what you think, and then I want to see what people who are listening think. And I'm going to put this out there. What is a legitimate better? I know France didn't end up winning, but in the stage that that was in, and the odds that they had to even force it to go to extra time, compared to being down 33 to nothing in football in the NFL in a division clinching game, what is the better comeback? Because one's the best comeback in football history, most points, and then one in soccer. I mean, I know it's not the biggest comeback in soccer's history,
I'd
but
I'd
given the
have to go.
circumstances,
I'd have to go the football game because of I don't know, it's tough because obviously the World Cup, like that's the biggest soccer
it's
game
the
of
biggest stage.
4 years, like every 4 years, obviously. But the fact that the Vikings did actually win it, um,
That's
I would just say from like a statistical like odds perspective, like what was the least likely scenario? I think the Vikings overcame greater odds. But I would say just as far as like the magnitude of, the actual like weight of the consequences of that game, the World Cup was like a bigger ordeal, obviously. Like that's kind of how
yeah.
I feel about it.
I, if France would have won, I would have 100% said that that is a bigger comeback, just given how much
Yeah.
harder it is to score in soccer.
Yeah, I'd
And
agree.
at that stage and with the everything on the line in that moment, I mean that's a worldwide, like that is the event, like everybody in the world has their eyes on that game. It means so much to those countries. Um And then I look at the obviously, like, we're football fans, and that's always what we're going to put first. But I just feel like you have to give it to the Vikings because they actually did win the game. But had France pulled this off, which they were so close in so many different chances to doing that, been a no doubter. I would have had to pick the World Cup comeback. But I think there's sides to both. I want to see what people think because soccer's, I mean, different sports, but the fact that we got both of those so close together,
Basically happening at the same time. Like
unbelievable.
it was ridiculous. And then so which I think we kind of predicted this, right? Like the Ravens do not have an offense with Lamar Jackson, and I know
They
that
don't
like
have an offense with Lamar Jackson.
and this is the problem is like you went from scoring like 13 to 20 points a game to 3 without Lamar. So it's like, man, Lamar's probably sitting there and being like, I'm probably getting my freaking contract. Like, because his absence from the team is showing just how much value he brings to it, even with, his limitations and things like that. So I'm really curious what happens with Lamar in the offseason. This was an ugly loss for the Ravens. And we've been saying, like, hey, for now a 9-5 team, but a 9-4 team, they have a lot of weaknesses that seem visible, and the Browns definitely seem to take advantage of those weaknesses. So, pretty rough loss for the Ravens.
Yeah, don't look now, but here come those Bengals. Rattling off six
Yeah.
straight. Um,
I think
it
they'll win
just,
the division at this
it
rate.
just, oh
Honestly,
yeah, it
you're
just
playing better
seems
football. Period.
they're bit like the Bengals are built for football this time of year. Joe Burrow's built for playing in games from behind. You can never count them out of the division of a game. It doesn't matter. He has that clutch gene. He's shown it time and time again, and I think it was cool. To see him come back. We'll get into that game, against Brady and just the mirrored. They play so similar. But in this game was garbage, man. And the Ravens, Justin Tucker, not a fan of this guy. After I have him in fantasy, he chose the worst possible time to go 1 for 3 from field goals. I know one was blocked, but really could have
Yeah,
used those points.
really rare. You do not see that from him very
Yeah, he's
often.
Mister Guarantee, but that was not good. And obviously, they had so many times the Ravens to get back in the game because it's not like the Browns dominated this game. There's Deshaun Watson still doesn't look good, and they're not a good team. But every time the Ravens had a chance, they blew it right with a turnover, missed field goal, blocked field goal. It's like you have all three of those things happen in a game, especially low scoring game. Probably not going to win. Probably not going to have a chance to win.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Moving on from, I guess, that snooze fest to what I think is a classic, and I'm just pumped because not only is this division sick, but I think this like Dolphins Bills rivalry is going to be a thing for years to come now, where these teams are, you know, messing up each other's playoff seeding for
Dude,
years. Like
they're
this
throwing
game,
snowballs from the crowd.
throwing
Like,
snowballs from the crowd. The Dolphins game, I think, was such a great game plan, and if it wasn't for Josh Allen literally like going superhero mode as he usually does, they probably would have won this game. I mean, they seemed unfazed by the cold, and then you get to the fourth quarter, and this freaking blizzard rolls through. Like
so
when
beautiful.
it's just amazing. Like it was just poetic. I absolutely loved watching this game. Both teams are destined for greatness. I am so excited to see both of these regimes kind of, battle it out with one another over the years here because it's going to be awesome. Both teams are young, both teams are really fun to watch. Like it's going to be sweet. So,
We got on this, on Saturday, we got the exciting shit sandwich, right? We got an exciting legendary comeback. We got a shit game, and then we got exciting, rival Josh Allen saving the day again performance. But yeah, man, the Bills like this is just what it kind of solidifies for me is that the Bills are able to clinch this one seed, right? Which is anything but clinched, by the way, with the Chiefs, the way they're playing, and with the Bengals coming right now, sneaking up from behind. Um, this is not a place teams want to go and play. I mean, you saw what it's going to look like in the playoffs with snow. I mean, you have these crazy fans that everybody loves. I mean, they're literally throwing snowballs at the opposing team's players, like Buddy the Elf, just throwing from the crowd. And what do you expect the fans to do?
they literally had to
Like
like stop the game and be like, "Hey, you guys can't do
I mean,
that."
that's a hostile environment to go into. I don't know many teams are going to go in and have, that whole crowd of people, physically throwing things at you. Like that's kind of just one of the most degrading things ever is to get hit in the face with a snowball. Um,
While you're
and
trying to play an NFL game.
while you're
I
trying
mean,
to like do your
uh,
job
the
on the
thing
biggest
is,
stage
dude,
and the whole world's watching.
the Bills are always at the center of some of the most exciting games I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, even this year with, that first Jets game, this
The Vikings
Vikings game
game.
that they played, the KC game. It's like the Bills are always good even before playoffs, right? Regular season, the Bills are always good for 4 or 5 just of some of the best, most exciting, most entertaining games that I've seen all season. And it's so fun to watch. And this was just yet another one of those. So yeah, really excited to see what this team does in the playoffs. Because you're right,
They,
Mark. Like I think it's a huge advantage for them to clinch that one seed just
oh my
because
god.
then the playoffs are through them. And what team wants to go to Buffalo to play them?
Nobody wants to go there
Nobody.
and play them. I will say this too. One thing I forgot to mention about the Vikings, you reminded me when you talked about them. They're 10-0 in one score games this year.
That's
10
an
and 0 in
important
one score
stat.
games.
Their defense stinks, so I don't even know how they managed to do that, but they have
10 and
shown up
0.
in those moments where that
There's
needs to
something to
happen.
say. I know there's a lot of, people trying to discredit the Vikings and everything, right, with their loss to the Lions last week and stuff like that, but there's a lot to say about a team that knows how to win close games because the playoffs are gonna have close games, and you have a team that's done it 10 times and they literally just made the greatest comeback in NFL history, like, there's not gonna ever be a deficit that the Vikings think they can't overcome because they've proven there's nothing they can't overcome.
Right.
So, that's a dangerous thing to take with you into the playoffs confidence-wise, and, I know there's a decent chance that that's who the Lions would see in the first playoff game if they're able to get in. So definitely have to still respect and appreciate how hard that is. With that being said, I mean they're in all these close games. They should be dominating, right? A lot of these games were with teams that they're much better. So you can kind of it's two-sided coin, but I'll say you have to respect the fact that they win games in close clutch moments when they need to, and that's coaching and that's playmaking. Um, Across the board, defense, offense, the whole shebang. But yeah, this is the Bills are not a team you want to see in the playoffs, John. And I'm going to still say that they're the favorite, and Josh Allen's is it goes through them, to get comfortable.
Yeah, I think that's most likely for sure. Um, moving on to Saints Falcons. Look, I said this right. Like uh, the Saints know how to bully their divisional opponents usually, and this year it hasn't really been that with with Tampa, obviously. That that loss really freaking hurt. But that was the first time in the regular season that that has not been the case, and yet they've dunked on the Falcons twice in a row. So happy that they were good for that. Pretty exciting game. Taysom threw, but probably the best ball I've ever seen him throw. And probably the best ball that got thrown by a Saints quarterback that game. Yes, I'm still hating on Andy Dalton, and I think they should again try to start Jameis and move on from the Andy Dalton experiment. But that's really all I got for that game. Um, uh, Saints are still in it, right? They're believe it or not, Tampa's currently top of the division, and then all three of the other teams are one game out of the playoffs. So I don't know what you want to do with that information, but if Tampa loses this week and Saints win, I believe Saints are at the top of the division. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, garbage game. Um, the Saints are like just one of the worst teams to watch this year. I feel like John, and who expected that going into the season? You had such high expectations, and you believed that they were gonna, they did great things on the off season and their signings and everything, and they've been a huge letdown. And
Their offense
it's
just cannot get it going. I mean, the fact they're even
it's
scoring 21 points a game, like it's like the most like grueling, pulling teeth, you know, points that you get in a game.
it's
It's like
not good. It's not good. That they stink. And it's honestly a shame that any team from that division is going to get a home game in the playoffs, let alone a game in the playoffs.
yeah,
Um,
I
but
don't
yeah,
disagree with you.
let's
And
move on to the next worst game of the weekend.
right. I did not watch Panthers Steelers. I'm just going to be real with you. I heard what did Kenny Pickett come back, or is he coming?
No,
That's
He's cleared to
he's
come
cleared to
back.
come back next week. Okay, so it was
Mitch
Trubisky.
Trubisky, it was the Mitch show. He didn't really do anything. He rushed for a touchdown. Najee Harris played okay. This Panthers team is they're just good enough to like make you worry though. Like the Lions playing them does concern me. It's definitely a game that we could lose. Um,
I'm not nervous because I saw how we were able to find a way to win even with missed opportunities against the sixth ranked defense in the league. And I think the Panthers are like 14th or 15th. And
I'm
their
just more
offense
so
was
worried about. I'm more so worried about the mentality. The approach into the game. Like the Lions have been underdogs all the time, and they seem to perform when they're underdogs. But when you go into a game and you're like the clear pick to win, and you're playing against a team that's significantly worse than you, it's kind of unfamiliar territory for the Lions. And sometimes that affects how you play, and you kind of just show up and think it's gonna be a win. And I just hope that that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong about that, but that scares me.
sure.
So
Look, the Lions came back from being 1-6. I'm sure they do not take any competition for granted. That's just my feeling of the mentality of this team is I don't care who the other opponent is, like we're going to be physical and we're going to play our game. That's at least my expectation, but I guess we'll see this Sunday. Obviously, every game is the biggest game for the Lions because to truly make the playoffs, you got to win out. You don't want to leave it up to chance.
yeah,
Yes, you can
I
afford a loss, but nobody's thinking, "Oh, we could lose this one." No one's thinking that, right? Like you got to win out and keep control your own destiny. So
I do not want to take the ACT if the Lions aren't in the playoffs. I'll be really, really honest with you. That is like the worst thing. I'm gonna be
that's the
so
worst
mad.
possible outcome. Yeah.
I'm gonna be so mad if that happens.
Eagles, Bears. So Hurts is hurt. Yeah, Hurts is hurt.
Hurts
um,
is hurt. Hurts
which
got hurt.
Hurts got hurt. Hurts is hurting. Um, and he also complained about how cold it is in Chicago, which I thought was pretty funny. But look, you were right that this game was closer. And from what it sounded like, between Jalen actually getting injured, but also the fact that they were actually like attributing cold as a factor as to why the offense wasn't quite as explosive as it usually is. And they struggled to get to Fields too, which I mean their pass rush has been damn good all season. And the Bears do not have all that great of an offensive line, but they really did not get to Fields too often. So yeah, interesting game. But at the end of the day, the Eagles still come out with a win with it. But you were
The
you were right that it was a lot closer.
the Eagles are reminding me of last year's Titans, where they are the 1 seed and everything seems to go their way in the regular season. I don't feel confident about them going into the playoffs. It's for reasons I've stated before on the podcast for sure. Um, but it's just like they just are struggling at some of the things that we thought that they were always going to be doing well. And they're starting to show some of those flaws that are starting to happen. And teams are starting to figure out that offense a little bit, right? And once they slow down, especially now Hurts is going to miss some games, and that will crush some of the momentum they have offensively.
Absolutely.
I don't know. They're obviously not going to be in a rush to bring him back because they essentially have that 1 seed clinched. They've already won the division. They've already got a home game in the playoffs. But they're probably, you know, going to clinch the 1 seed pretty easily here, even if he doesn't play. So I don't know how quickly they're going to rush him back. And I just think that missing games at this time of the year is critical because that momentum, like we talk about all the time, I
Yeah,
mean,
gotta stay warm.
they get stuck seeing a 49ers team or a Lions team, that's hungry and had this momentum and just rattling off wins. That's dangerous for a team that's kind of, hasn't been fully healthy in a few weeks. Bad timing for his injury, right? Bad time for his injury. I don't know. It just has that feel. I know people are gonna be like, well, dominated pretty much all year and they've looked like the best team in the NFC all year. I don't know. I got a bad feeling about them in the playoffs this year. I just don't think they have what it takes.
Yeah, and I know that's kind of been your narrative. I still think that they got all the assets they need to do something, but obviously, this is the NFL. Anybody can truly beat anybody. The Lions, very nearly beat the Eagles in Week 1, so we'll see what happens with that. And then another team that showed a little bit of weakness, right? KC, basically won versus the Texans by the skin on their teeth. Very close game. Definitely not the cleanest game that Casey's ever played, especially defensively. And this Texans for a one-win team, man, they're a tough team and they play good football against teams. We've seen that with their game against the Eagles. We've seen that against their game with the Cowboys, and now we saw that with Casey. So it stinks that they can't get that win. Hopefully, they keep morale high over there. And look, I'm sure in the same way that it was for Dallas, just kind of like a nice like wake up call where it's like, all right, like, let's address some of these weaknesses that the Texans were able to take advantage of so that, when we play a better team, those same weaknesses are not exposed.
Yeah, this game is, it's closer than it really looked. In football, the main factor between winning and losing is always taking care of the football, and the Chiefs did not. They turned the ball over, gave them quick scores several times, which is why the game was close. But the Chiefs actually had over 500 yards of offense, and the Texans had like under 250. So it wasn't like the Chiefs were giving up a bunch of long drives and stuff like that. The score makes it look like, oh, they hung in there. It was really because the Chiefs gave them the opportunity with short fields and quick points and cheap easy ones. And it is what it is. It ended up being a close game in a game that they could have lost. But the Texans, they couldn't do what they needed to do on that last drive. They turned the ball over. You just can't do that, right? You can't give the Chiefs the ball right there. They just score plays later. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are still a dangerous team. I'm not going to look too much into these close ones they've had with a few bad teams. They
R-
still win, right? They've still won the games,
And
and they've
that's what
still
matters
looked.
at the end of the day,
Mahomes
right?
still looks unbelievable, and if he's playing the way he's playing, I mean, he's playing MVP football. um, have a chance to beat anybody.
Right. Um, and then, speaking of, so look, is this are the Cowboys doing the thing again, right? I mean, that's the question that is so loud in my head, and I know I'm just like eager to hate on them, but I gotta ask: Are the Cowboys doing the thing again? Look so
They
good in the
always
middle of
do,
the
John. It's
season.
been what 30, 40 years of the same. You know, hey, we're a contender this year. We got all our pieces right. We went out and we've got a stud defense, and we've got Dax our guy, and we signed Zeke, and CD Lamb's coming onto the scene, and he's really grown into a special player. It's like everything sounds good and everything looks good early on. This has first round loss written all over it.
I mean, like, I think if this team plays the Niners, they lose. I think if they
Hmm.
play the Eagles, they lose. I
Hmm.
think if they play the Lions, they probably lose because the Lions are gonna have absolute bloodlust for the regular season game. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think this team is very beatable. And look, I got to give credit where credit's due too. I mean, the Jaguars, for their first year with this head coach, like they're really starting to put it together. I mean, they technically put it together faster than the Lions or the Jets did. In the first years with their head coach, and they beat a good team. So like, you got to give credit where credit's due. And the Jags are in every game that they play. And they're making a playoff push right now because their division's kind of weak, and they might be able to win out and win their division and make the playoffs, and that'd be awesome. But with that being said, the Cowboys should have not let this game get away from them. They made a bunch of huge mistakes. Defense obviously playing a lot softer than they have in weeks past, and like that just can't happen, right? Your defense has to be your backbone when you're especially going into the postseason, right? Like that's why the 49ers are a scary team, is because their defense just doesn't let up. The Cowboys defense starts letting up, they're in trouble for the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys are what they are, but I think it's time we give Trevor Lawrence a little bit of credit
Totally.
because, listen, in the last month, he's been the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he's living up to the potential of what you would hope, when the Jags took him first overall, right? And I think he really is just starting to live up to that potential and play up to that potential. He's making good
Which
reads, he's making good throws. It's
I,
it's awesome to see.
I mean, we said this in the beginning of the year, right? Getting rid of Urban Meyer, that essentially was a setback for him. He didn't improve at all. In fact, he probably got worse in that situation. Doug Peterson is a very quarterback friendly coach. He's developed a lot of guys in the past. He's done really well with every quarterback that he's had, from starters to backups. Trevor Lawrence, young, he's got everything that you would ever want in a quarterback that you want to develop. He's still super young. And I'm not kidding you, John. I looked this stuff up. Trevor Lawrence in the last month is the best quarterback statistically in completion percentage, touchdown interception ratio, and yards.
That middle one surprises me because of the way Goff has actually been playing, right?
I know, but it's
Yeah,
like
that's wild.
and you have to look at it and don't look now, but they're making a late push to win that division because the Titans seem to be falling off, right? And the Colts are falling off, and the Titans obviously have one win. And not only that, but they have, besides the Lions game, they've looked really, really good, And even at times in that Lions game, a lot of the mistakes that they were making wasn't on Trevor Lawrence. I mean, there's a lot of drop passes, and the
Yeah.
defense couldn't stop
Well,
Detroit one time.
the
So
drop passes, the defense stopping Detroit, but I also think like and I'm just gonna segue straight into the Lions Jets game if that's cool with you.
yeah,
Detroit's pass rush, like night and day from where it was at the beginning of the season. And I think the biggest thing is Houston, getting healthy and being able to, add. It's like, okay, well, you can't just, double hutch every time because Houston is just lightning off of the edge. And you have, your two big guys with Ali McNeil and Bugs in the middle. And now you're bringing Aquara back into the mix to like, this is a scary, scary defensive line. And to think that we might get Carter or Will Anderson with this Rams
oh
pick
my God,
could be scarier, right? Like who are you going to block? I mean, Houston is an absolute steal for a sixth round pick. That dude's a stud. I was so impressed with just the improvement of the Lions defense, especially their front seven, right? This game was ugly, super ugly. But the defense showed up when they needed to, the special team showed up when they needed to, and then when the offense needed absolutely needed to score points on that drive, they were able to make it happen with a 51-yard touchdown on a 4th and inches. So
Another awesome play call and a must-have down, right? Ben Johnson with just an good gutsy play call in a moment where you absolutely needed it, right? I mean, the game was probably over if you don't get that right there. And you have to give that, the offense for the struggles that they had, they still moved the ball relatively well against the Jets. I like Dan Campbell going for it on the 4th and goal on that first drive. Ended up giving us a short field. We returned the punt for a touchdown right back at him. Had nothing wrong with that. The clock management by the Jets at the end of the game, horrible.
well, I mean,
I don't know
like
what they were thinking.
I've always credited Salah being the more like mature, right? Because this Salah Campbell hire comparison is gonna go on for years probably, and like Salah, I always thought was like the like big brain football guy, right? And I just what he was doing with the clock management at the end of that game, I couldn't make any sense of. I
It
don't
didn't make
understand
any
what he was
sense. He ended
thinking.
up still having that timeout, like, he took a timeout with him, like, you can't do that. It doesn't it doesn't carry over. That's just an absolute he didn't take a timeout until there was under 30 seconds left. Like, that just
Yeah,
didn't make any sense. Horrible. I still don't understand how head coaches in the NFL, like, this is literally their job, their livelihood, and managing the clock is one of the easier things to do. I mean, you have people in your ear on the headset, basically their whole job is to help you do that and tell you when to call timeout and tell you when not to, and it just doesn't make any sense that that happens. Um, One thing I will say about this game, and disagree with me, Jeff Okuda is a liability. He's a liability. He's been targeted in several games over and over. It doesn't matter who's at receiver. I mean, the Jets have some okay receivers in Wilson. He's a rookie. And I know that were former teammates at Ohio State, but it didn't matter who lined up on him. They went at him over and over and over again. And I mean, it was clearly part of the game plan. Like, they didn't respect Okuda. We're going to go right at this dude. You want to play man to man? We're going to go right at this guy, and they did with ease. And then we're talking about Zach Wilson throwing the ball too. Like, it's alarming, and it's the one thing with the Lions that gives me some fear because they're going to play better receivers and better quarterbacks moving forward.
so
And
so
he's
my
been
biggest
bad in other
thing
games.
my biggest thing, and this is what I've been saying too, is we lack depth at this position, and I don't really think Okuda is the problem. I actually think he's been playing above my personal expectations, especially early in the season. He was locking dudes down in his first like 5 or 6 games this season. Now I don't know if he's just failed to kind of continue to improve week over week. I don't know if defenses are starting to figure out what the line or the sorry, offenses are trying to figure out what the Lions are doing with him week over week. I will acknowledge that he's been playing worse as of the past few weeks, but I also think that, and I've said this, right? If Jacobs and Okuda are not healthy and starting, you're going to run into issues, right? And that's kind of been my thesis this entire time is we desperately need depth at that position in the secondary because the talent drop off after those two dudes is pretty bad. And I actually think Jacobs is a better corner than Okuda. So that's definitely a position that we need to cushion. I'm also going to give Okuda the benefit of the doubt because I believe he's been fighting illness the past 2 weeks too. And I cannot imagine locking down incredibly fast, some of the fastest humans on earth, play after play after play, when you had the flu is any fun whatsoever. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there. I think he will be a great, third corner, right? Like I think whoever we draft, and I'm hoping we take a corner in the first round is probably going to replace him, but I definitely think he's worth keeping around, and I think he's a reliable corner. But I'm a lineman. What the hell do I know? So
I'm just saying, man. I don't like he's been exposed in a lot of big moments. What he has done well this year is tackle. He's definitely got nosy. He's got in there and made some tackles. But at the same time, I mean, that's him just taking risks and kind of guessing. When he's put to the test in coverage, he has struggled and just about against everybody he's played. He's had a couple good games. Yes, you're right, but overall, I mean, it's pretty clear teams don't respect him and are coming after him, and
yeah, I mean, I was
that's
really annoyed with the 3rd and longs that the Jets were able to convert in this
it
game.
should
I mean,
never it shouldn't happen like that.
and it
You
happens
shouldn't
so
be able to
often.
convert it. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to do that more than a couple times a game. It just seemed like every single chance that the Lions had to get off the field on a 3rd and long, especially when you're going against Zach Wilson and
Yeah.
you know, the,
And who is setting up those 3rd and longs, by the way? Our defensive line. Again, like
yeah, the defensive line played very well. The linebackers have started to play better. Um, the same one thing I'll say again, dude, the running back rotation. I know that you're not as high on DeAndre Swift as I am. they don't even give him a chance to get going. I mean, the guy he's super talented with the ball in his hands, especially when they get it to him in space. And and he is a better downhill runner than you give him credit
Well,
for. He just doesn't get a lot of chances to show it.
here's the problem is you give it to him in space though, and he drops passes. I remember one of the commentators saying, "Oh, a rare drop from Swift." I clearly remember the past 3 games. There's been like a
Oh,
really embarrassing drop from
yeah,
Swift,
he's had
and
drops
his
for
his
sure.
stutter steps and his dancing when you just need to charge ahead and get the first down frustrates the hell out of me. And again, I will take Jamal getting 3 or 4 yards reliably on his runs than Swift trying to turn every play into a touchdown and getting tackled at the line of scrimmage or dropping a very easy, pass to him. Like I
Yeah,
don't understand it. He is so talented. He's so fast. The way he started the beginning of the season was amazing, but
because
I
they
don't know if
played him
it's
more. I'll say, John, like as a running back, especially, like yes, there's time where he hesitates, and yes, he has some drop issues. But if you let this guy play over the course of a game, he will turn it on at some point, and he'll make a play that changes the game. Will he have a couple drops? Sure. Is Jamal Williams perfect? No. Is Justin Jackson much better? Not really. But DeAndre Swift will change the course of the game at some point if they give him more carries and if they give him more opportunities to make plays. He plays like a third, like probably 20% of the snaps, it seems like. He's rarely in there.
yeah, I don't know if they're still trying to cover up maybe some injury issues or what, because I do
I
agree
don't
he's more
know.
talented than the chances that they're giving him, but I just don't know. Look, and I'm not completely out on Swift yet. I'm not trying to imply that. What I am trying to imply is that there is a running back named Tank Bigsby that's going to be in this draft, and I can't think of a more Dan Campbell football player than a guy named Tank Bigsby. So we should
I'm
just keep
I'm
an eye on
looking
that.
more at I'm looking more at Blake Corum and Bijan Robinson
Yeah,
if
I mean,
those guys are available. This is a really good running back draft.
all joking aside, yes, there's better options than Tank as well. But I mean, I don't know if we'll get Robinson. I think we'll probably go higher, and I don't think we're going to take him in the first round. And I think
Yeah.
there will be teams that take a chance on him.
Side
Uh,
note, John, Blake Corum, did you see the news? He's 50-50 on whether he's going to come back to
I did
Michigan or go.
not see the news on that at all. When did that drop?
He said he's focusing right now on recovering from his injury, and he has not made a decision on whether he's going to declare. So could
Uh,
have another year at Michigan, which would be pretty awesome for Michigan fans. Um,
Okay, so not 50-50 on whether or not he'll be able to be back for the playoff game. 50-50 on whether or not he will be back next year is what you're saying.
yes.
Got it.
No,
Yeah, I
he's
mean, I
done
don't
for
know.
the
And
year.
okay, he's for sure done for the year.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been hearing little rumors that he might be able to play in the national championship. I don't think that's going to be the case, but maybe they're
Yeah.
floating
Highly
those out.
doubtful.
Yeah, just so that I mean, look, I think Edwards is going to do just a fine job too, so I'm not really concerned about it. All right, we've spent a good amount of time on this Lions game. I'm fired up. I'm super excited to see the next 3 weeks with this team. I'm super excited to see Mark take the ACT. When all hope was lost, 1-6, we were able to make it happen. I got a good piece of content that I've been working on for the TikTok that I think will be pretty funny. So yeah, that's all I got
Be
for
on the
that.
lookout for that.
uh,
Also, side note, we're putting a lot of stuff like short stuff on YouTube. So subscribe to us on YouTube because everything that we post on TikTok we'll be posting on the shorts as well. There's some rumors that TikTok might even get. I know it's been happening for like 2 years now, but that TikTok might be removed or banned. And if that's the case, obviously YouTube's the spot to go. We have other good stuff on YouTube anyway, so subscribe on YouTube. A lot of good
it's,
stuff
it's
there.
it's definitely where you get the full podcast experience. And yeah, as Mark said, all of our reels and TikToks that we post on socials, we're going to start posting as YouTube shorts as well. So that will be the central location for our content. Um, Helps us out, right? Because this is where our long form content is coming from. It also helps us out because YouTube has the best monetization out of all of those other websites. So if you want to help
Yep.
us out, subscribe on YouTube. Mark will also get a better podcasting mic if you subscribe to us, so that would be massive.
One thing too,
So
John actually got the ticker down here at the bottom the whole episode. Didn't
I
have to
did.
remind him. I went right when I logged on, it was running.
It was
I
ready to
mean,
go.
that's a miracle right there. The fact that
Thank
he
you.
pulled that off. But yeah, we've also got the podcast. It's on Apple now. I don't know if we officially announced that
And
on
it's on
air. I know.
Google. and it's
On
on Google.
Google, I didn't even know Google had podcasts. It's on Google, on Apple, on Spotify, on YouTube, and then we have Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everything.
It's
So
unlimited, in the words of Russell
no,
Wilson,
don't
right?
don't don't
We got
even.
we have
I don't want to associate Russell Wilson with us. We this is a Russell Wilson hating podcast.
Oh, I know. Trust me. That I think I've kind of led the charge on the Russell Wilson
So
hate.
let's get into the Russell Wilson because the Broncos got a win um, against a bad banged up Cardinals team with no Kyler Murray. And actually, they got down to the third string quarterback, Trace McSorley, who I loved at Penn State, was a hell of a college player, one of my favorite in recent years, um, but not much of an NFL quarterback. And he kind of showed that, right? Like they struggled with Denver. Denver's defense consistently playing well as they always do, and they got a win in the Mile High. Any thoughts on that, John? Any you didn't want to pull up the toilet bowl graph or anything this
No,
this
yeah,
week?
with this whole screen sharing situation, we're kind of limited on the stuff we're tossing up here. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to go too far and say, oh, like they're better without Russ than they are with Russ because they put up 24 points, which is obviously more than the average that Russ has been putting up. Um, I don't want to go that far because the Cardinals stink and they're super banged up, as you alluded to. Um, and I think they hopefully will be able to do the same thing against the Rams next week to continue to improve the Lions' draft capital. That would be huge, absolutely huge, if the
It's
the Broncos can
gigantic,
win that.
John. And I'll say, we have a lot of Lions talk because we are a Detroit-based podcast. But the pick we get is really, really important because it's going to shape up to see who's going to take the quarterbacks and who's not, right? Because Will Anderson and Carter are going to be the first two players I think taken that are non-quarterbacks. If we're
Right.
able to get one of those two guys, and I want Will Anderson bad because Will Anderson I think is a lot better than Carter. Carter's not by any means bad, but Will Anderson is that much better than everybody else. It's not even close. He was the best player in last year's draft if he had come out.
Yeah, I
The
mean, the
guy's a
problem is
freak.
is the Bears don't need a quarterback, right? So
I
we'll
know.
see. I
It's
mean, and
it's
look, the Bears could win some games here. I mean, it all depends. And look, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? Like if the Lions have the third, fourth, or fifth pick, I really don't think it's going to make that big a difference.
if
If
I'm
I'm
just saying,
playing,
if we can get Will Anderson, I'm going to be like,
it'd be crazy.
we're going to be very good for a very long time if we're somehow able to get Will Anderson. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm putting out there. He changes in everything for our franchise.
Yeah. So
Everything.
we'll see what happens. It's so funny how many teams I'm keeping an eye on for as a proxy to Lions, right? I'm keeping an eye on the Bears and the Broncos and the Rams because of draft situation, and then I'm keeping an eye on the Seahawks, the Giants, and the Commanders because of playoff implications. So it's like just so many scenarios, and it's like it's like which team am I even supposed to be pulling for in this particular game? But it makes it entertaining for all that reason too. But yeah, that's really all I got for this Broncos Cards game. Hoping that they can beat the Rams next week. Okay, so now moving on to the most embarrassing football play I think I've ever seen coming from a
Dumbest
team
football play I've ever seen.
from a team that does not make these mistakes. Like prides themselves on not making stupid plays like this. What are you doing?
It shows you, John, that the Patriots are they're not what they used to be, man. And all good things come to an end. It has for sure come to an end. If this isn't that final like guarantee the Patriots are dead and are never going to be the same as what they used to be with Tom Brady, I don't know what is. This was the dumbest thing years of playing, coaching, or watching football. This was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And this was all player driven. This was not called. They were not told to lateral the ball. So Stevenson lateraling the ball to Myers, stupid, because that could have been picked up and returned. I mean, that alone was a stupid decision. It wasn't like he had a clear path or that
And
they
then
had
he's like
planned
Mac
that.
Jones.
And then he turns and dude, I just don't know what in the there's no you cannot convince me that that dude didn't think that they were losing. I know in his post game he said that he knew it was a tie game. The only reason he would do that is if he thought that they were losing the game.
I just I like, cause seriously, I mean, he was like arm punt to Mac Jones. Like, I just don't get.
And then
Uh,
just the horribleness of basically the word, and it's just so many bad pieces. If you're a Patriots fan, like this is going to be the worst thing ever to hear, right? Obviously, the loss and how it happened sucks. Your playoff odds go from higher than 50% to less than 20%. Sucks. Uh, Chandler Jones is the one who picks it off, stiff arms your future franchise quarterback to the ground, who used to be a Patriot. He's a
Yep.
Patriot legend.
Yep.
He is the one who makes the play. And then Mac Jones getting absolutely buried. Like, I think he's still in Vegas.
And
Like, they
then
put a
Matt Patricia
tombstone there.
just, like, watching this chaos unfold with a
Oh
pencil in
my
his ear,
God.
just helpless like the idiot that he is.
And then, up top of everything, let's remember this was a revenge game. Right? This was a revenge game. This was against the Raiders. That's why I picked the Raiders. You can see it on the graphic. I picked it because of McDaniel, right? This is like he's going to go. I think I called it and said that he's going
You
to go
did.
against the old bull and wants to have, his revenge, right? All those years of being underneath Belichick. It's just the worst possible thing to ever happen if you're a Patriots fan. I can't even imagine how much that sucks.
It's absolutely embarrassing. It really is. Yeah. Teams with brighter futures, though, man, these Chargers are starting to put it together. And look, they still have a long
Yes,
ways to go
sir.
if they want to have hopes of not only making the playoffs but going deep in the playoffs. But they're looking pretty good. They're healthy, which is huge, both
John, it
offensively
was
and
the it was the
defensively.
it was the perfect weekend for the Chargers, right? With the Patriots, Jets, and Miami losing.
Yep.
Because I think they're now the 5th seed in the AFC currently as it sits right now with winnable games ahead of them. Some division games, like I think they still have a couple division games or I think just one more division game left, but this is a team, I'm telling you, they're not even healthy yet and they're winning these games, and they're all important games, obviously, for them. But this is a serious threat in the AFC. And everybody forgets, right? Because you have Cincinnati, you have the Chiefs, and you have the Bills, right? Most people just talk about the Chiefs and the Bills. I think some people are starting to put Cincinnati in there because of how they've looked and they've rattled off some wins and because they got to the Super Bowl last year. But this Chargers team, I'm telling you, is a threat, is a legitimate threat, and it's shaping up to look like it could be Bengals Chargers in the first round of the playoffs, which
That
would
would
be
be
so
crazy.
sick.
Yeah,
And
that
the
would be an insane
uniforms in
game.
that game, oh my god, would be so.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a dope uniform game.
Oh
You know,
yeah, just
I,
a
it,
good color rush.
there's
I
if I'm going
mean,
to spend 2.5 hours watching TV, watching football, I kind of
y'all
want to see
better
a
look
sick
sick.
uniform matchup.
Yeah,
And the Chargers have some of the coolest uniforms in sports.
and the NFL's gotten a little bit looser with it over the years, but I do wish the NFL just allowed like more freedom with teams to experiment with that stuff.
Yeah.
Like how colleges kind of get the privilege of
I
doing that.
respect the classic look, right, and the professional, like, the tradition. Like, I like the Steelers have looked the same for so long, right? And the Patriots are these, and every once in a while, yeah, they do some change ups in the uniforms. I think it's actually kind of cool that it's a rare thing that you see them switch up, because college has their thing, and Oregon has a different uniform every single game, and it's like there's no consistency or tradition there. I kind of
Right.
like the classic. Some of the best uniforms I think in sports, honestly, are the classic, like Penn State, Michigan, like
Right.
Alabama, like just so
Oh
basic.
yeah, I
There's
mean,
nothing
as a
cool. There's
Michigan fan,
nothing
I'd go
cool
nuts
about
if they like change the helmet or something
yeah,
like
there's
that. Like you
nothing
just don't
cool
do that.
about their uniform. It's what it's always been, and there's something about that. Like people that played in those same uniforms, 100 years ago are representing, the same people that are playing today. It's pretty cool. But yeah, these Chargers are legit. These Chargers are legit. Tennessee is definitely on the alert button here. Tannehill banged up, came back, went off got carted off, and then came back and played. Look, I have an issue with anyone
Did
that
you
gets
see that
carted off
picture of him watching the game from the injury tent? Like
like
some
Squidward
photog
from the Squidward meme, watching SpongeBob and Patrick play
No,
from his
that was literally it, dude.
yeah
I'll clip this and you can add the screenshot of it into the TikTok
yeah.
or whatever. But he literally looks like just Squidward looking through the tent trying to
It's
watch the game.
hilarious. But
It's
it's the
awesome.
word. I hate John. I hate that he came back. I don't like if you get injured and you have to get carted out. I don't care what sport. If you have to get carted off the field, you better not show your ass back out there and try to play. This isn't some like I don't know. It just pisses me off. It's
Especially
like if
because
you're
like everybody has to stand on the field for 5-10 minutes for somebody to get
yeah, and
carted off
everyone's
the
worried
field.
about you, and
Yeah.
obviously, like when you can't walk off or you can't even limp off or get helped off on your own, on your own accord, and then you come back out and all of a sudden you're playing again in the same day in the same hour. Like that's BS, dude. Like it's just a
Yeah.
dramatic. What I don't know. It pisses me off when that happens because as a player, I never ever in a million years would let someone cart me off and make everybody in the crowd that was watching me about me, and then it just pisses me off, dude. Like if I got carted off in football, like you might be thinking I might be dead. That's kind
Right.
of how I approach the game. I think that's
Right.
how
Horribly
football players
concussed
should
or like a
approach the game.
shattered leg or something. Yeah,
Yes.
for
Yeah.
sure. And then, this Bengals team, man, like they were obviously losing at the half and they came back in the second half and were like, nah, this is our game. Like sit down. And it was just incredible to watch.
Dude,
The confidence, and this is why he's Joe Cool, right? Just the confidence that this dude has at all times, no matter what the situation he's faced with, no matter, how well people are getting blocking for him, no matter who's open, he just always is just the exact same player. He's calm, he's calculated, he executes, and that's what makes this team a contender this year, right? And what
there's
made them
th-
last year is he just is absolutely unfazed by adversity and he just gets the job done.
there's never ever a moment too big for Joe Burrow. There's never a challenge too big for Joe Burrow. He's fearless. He's not afraid of anybody or anything. Um, he walked into the GOAT home game, right? The Bucks, coming off of a bad loss, really felt like they needed to win. The Bucks came out and slapped him in the mouth early. Defense was playing well for Tampa. Tom Brady got an early touchdown. They had an early lead, and you just never felt like the Bengals were out of it though. They looked horrible the whole first half offensively, had nothing going, but you just knew that eventually they would get it clicking, and all of a sudden it's a problem when they start to click on offense. And that's exactly what happened. And we've seen this happen time and time again. You never count these Bengals out. Joe Burrow at the realm at the head of this realm, dude. I would never count them out when they get behind. There's a lot of teams like we've mentioned that we think have worries about if they get behind in playoff games or and even games left in the regular season, what's going to happen because we don't know if they have the ability to come back. There's a few guys that we know can come back, right? Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow. We've seen Tom Brady do it. Um, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Those guys can come back, will come back. You're never out of a game with those guys. And there's some other guys that you don't know, right? But the Bengals, man, I said this a few weeks ago, John, and you were like, yeah, you could be right. And then every single week since, you're like, you're like, yeah, they won again, and it looks like they're gonna take the division now, and who knows, right? They're
It,
not out of it for the 1 seed, John. Because they still play
right.
Buffalo. They still, I think they
And they're
play,
getting healthy at the right time too. Like
yeah.
it's gonna be awesome. I mean,
If
and
Buffalo somehow loses another game and then loses to Cincinnati, Cincinnati has wins over Kansas City and Buffalo. They are the ones they get a bye. How crazy would that
crazy.
be?
Yeah, it would be nuts. And again, like that's why this time of year is just the best for football. Is every game matters. There's so many different ways that these things can play out. I mean, I'm just glued to my television through the holidays and everything because it's every single one of these games have massive implications. It's pretty awesome. And then man, like I'd hate to just boil this game down to just talking about the officiating, but to me, like the Commanders were putting together a great drive, about to come back, about to tie this game up, and that pass interference play in the end zone, and then McLaurin checking with the ref multiple times to ask if he's on the line, being told he's good, and then being told illegal formation after that. Like it's just so frustrating because this game matters a lot, right? And you can say every game matters, but like these two teams are trying to fight their way into the playoffs. These teams are divisional rivals, and it just stinks to watch this game not boil down to, oh, like the Commanders lost that game because they were the worst team. It's, oh, the Commanders lost this game because they had a non-call that was horrendous and a call that probably shouldn't have happened either. It's just a bummer, right? And I'd say maybe this Commanders loss is probably good for the Lions because the Commanders have a pretty tough schedule. Forward here, just as far as playoff implications go. But it doesn't make me feel any better about the outcome of this game personally.
It sucks. You never like to see. One thing before I get into the officiating, Kayvon Thibodeau had an unbelievable game, 12
He had a great
tackles.
game, and so did Saquon. Man, I mean,
Saquon showed up,
whew,
but you don't see defensive ends get 12 tackles, a strip sack, scoop and score every week, right? Like that's a rare thing. I mean, 12 tackles, dude. I mean, I saw him in his post game interview. They told him that he had 12 tackles. He goes, he like looked at the cameras like, I had 12 tackles. He's like, okay, like he couldn't even believe that he had 12 tackles. But that's just kind of the game he had. But to get to your point, like the officiating, I'll say this: the pass interference, horrible no call. So obviously pass interference on that last play, the fourth down
He
play.
jumped on his
However,
back, man.
oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. It was 110% every single day of the week, a pass interference for sure, and they didn't call it. And we see all the time. It feels like on these end of the game, last chance situations, they don't want to throw the flag because I mean, just giving him another chance. Just I don't know.
They're
We see it
super
so
eager to throw laundry on the field for the other 59 minutes of the game,
right,
and then when
right,
it's a
right.
critical moment, it's like,
Exactly, exactly, right, and the crowd's going crazy, and it's such a meaningful play, they seem to be more hesitant to pull that flag out because I don't know, I think they're scared that they're gonna affect the natural moment of the game, but what I will say is the McLaurin thing, it was a penalty, and here's why. I've looked at it a few times because 'cause I've been in that situation as a receiver where you have to know whether you're on or off the ball. They came out with kinda like a trick play type formation where there was gonna be some pre-snap shifts and stuff. He had to step up onto the ball when they shifted. He didn't. He realized that he didn't once they reached like once the motion happened, the shift happened. He noticed and he looked to the ref and he was up a little bit, but he still wasn't on the ball. Gave him the thumbs up. I don't know if the ref actually gave him a thumbs up back, but even if he did at that point, he still wasn't on the ball, and the ball was like about to be snapped. So it wasn't like Heineke was looking out, waiting for McLaurin to get ready. It was going to be a penalty no matter what, whether he was on or off. The thumbs up, like just because the ref gives you the thumbs up, doesn't mean like they're going to pause the clock continue to run. They're going to wait for you to get lined up correctly. Like this isn't JV football. This isn't little league. He made a mistake. He realized it, but he realized it too late. And instead of just owning up to it, he's trying to flip it and say that like that's BS. It was a penalty. He was off the ball. But yeah, the PI was horrible.
it was a penalty. I guess, and again, I'm not a receiver, right? I played line my whole life. Um, like, what is the formality with that, right? Like, the ref isn't
So you have
obligated to
to.
tell you, but if
No, the
you
ref does
ask,
not have to tell you, and if you ask, they'll normally either tell you to scoot up like this, or they'll give you a thumbs up. But again, a lot of the time, right, that ref isn't only watching you. Like he's looking at other things and he has other responsibilities other than just making sure that you're on or off the ball. I mean, the rule is that you have to have the seven guys on the ball, and the nearest guy on that side, he can't be off the ball, right, and be ineligible. It becomes an illegal formation. So McLaurin knew he needed to step up, otherwise they would have too many people in the backfield. And he's supposed to know this when they practice the play all week, right? Because it's the
right,
shift that he's supposed to step up. It's just a simple thing. You have to know it. He forgot it. It seemed like in that moment, realized it too late. Once he saw the shift happen, he's like, "Oh no! Like I'm definitely supposed to be on the ball." He does move up, but he's not on the ball yet. And then he looks to try to like, make it obvious that he's like figured out that he's supposed to be on the ball. I don't know if the ref actually gave him a thumbs up or not. I don't know if he's just saying that. Even if he mattered, still penalty. And a different ref could call it, just because
sure,
that ref said you're good. If you're not on the ball, you're not on the ball. And if you go
sure,
back and look at it, he wasn't on the ball,
sure.
which is a horrible penalty to have in that situation. It's a huge mistake on his part because they're on the 1 yard line. And also, I'll put it even more clearly, Heineke should have scored the instead of getting tackled at the one anyway. For some reason, he kind of started to stumble and head towards the out of bounds. If he just cuts back or tries to jump or lowers his shoulder and stretches that ball, I think he gets to the pile.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't even have mattered. They would have been in.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the pass interference is a lot more egregious than the illegal
Oh, for
formation.
sure.
I
Yeah,
just kind of
that's
wanted clarity on that for sure. And then moving on to Rams Green Bay, man, this game you watch it and you're like, are the Packers going to also win out? And is this game at Lambeau going to be just the craziest NFC game ever? Because both these teams will be playing to get in, basically. Because that situation, I think, is more likely than not. It's the most entertaining potential outcome. So that probably
who
is going to be the
who do
outcome.
the Packers who do the Packers still have
They
left?
have
I don't.
so here's their biggest issue is they have to play Miami at Miami on Christmas Day.
That's tough.
That's tough. And then after that, I think they have the Vikes again, and then after that, they have the Lions. So they do not have an easy path. But if I know anything about Aaron Rodgers, and he does seem to be clicking with his young receivers a lot better than he was. They released Sammy Watkins, obviously, so obviously they don't feel like they need him, and they feel like they're good at receiver. Um, So yeah, it's an interesting situation. I don't want to like jump the gun too early and say that the Packers have turned it around and they're about to win out against a much tougher schedule than the Lions have, but it is a possibility, and that could make things interesting. With that being said, happy to see them beat the Rams. Right, good for the Lions, good for draft capital, and the Rams just aren't good. But I also want to mention that lateral pass too, because like, what was he thinking there? I mean, that did not have the outcome that the Patriots game did, but I would argue that was a dumber, more boneheaded decision even than Myers made in that moment. Like, he
Yeah,
literally just decided to fumble the ball backwards towards nobody and lose 15 yards on that play when he could just go down.
yeah, a lot of stupid decisions that we saw around the league, coaching and players, and really, there's just it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you had like this is this guy's job, right? Like these players, like this is what they do. This is their livelihood, right? And this is all that matters to them. This their families, and that's what comes first in their lives. And to not be prepared in some of these moments, like we saw this, it's crazy at the highest level to see some of these mistakes happen. Um, but we had an amazing weekend of football, dude. I made one of the best, maybe the best weekend of games we've had in a
It was
long time.
unreal. It was
And
unreal. I mean, every
it's
game
just
there was a story to tell about it. I just love this time of year for football. It's so good.
we're going into it's so awesome to have the Detroit Lions be playing meaningful football um in this late into the year. And this is exciting stuff. There's so many teams right on the fringe, right? So many different, like you said, so many different things that can happen. Teams can have one thing go their way or not, and it's going to be every game's important from here on out. It just feels like the playoffs are starting early because there's so many teams scratching and clawing to kind of find their way in. Um, and we're not even in the playoffs yet. We're still a few weeks out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, these next 3 weeks are going to be super exciting because of that. And then we can move on to our predictions for next week here. My question, Mark, is can I just send you this link and both of us follow along on our respective screens? Because it's frankly been annoying not seeing your face for this entire hour. If that works for you.
You missed my face.
Oh, I miss your face, definitely. Just it's just lonely just
Uh,
staring at the matchups and just the little screenshots that I got clipped of each other's faces. It just wasn't the same.
yeah, I got to look at you for the last hour.
Yeah, yeah, and I regret to tell you that that probably wasn't a great time for you. Look like a freaking caveman. But
Yeah, the ACT background really grinds my gears. I'll tell you that much.
yeah,
Because
just
it's
try to
like for the
bug you
last
as much.
hour, I've just been like, reminded that I have to go study for this ACT once I finish recording this.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. All right, so week or Thursday, sorry, Thursday's game is Jaguars versus the Jets, which it's probably going to be an exciting game because both of these teams are trying to claw their way into the playoffs right now. Jaguars are 6-8, Jets are 7-7. So kind of a must-win for both of these teams if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. This really, honestly, this does boil down to whether or not Zach Wilson's starting, in my opinion. But
He
just
is
because I
starting.
feel like the Jaguars have been playing hotter, I honestly think that I'm going to go Jags here.
I'm also going to go Jags. Zach Wilson is starting, by the way, confirmed. Um,
Or
I'm
Mike
going to
White,
go
man. He deserves
for Mike
better.
White. Right, but I think he's definitely still solidified that it's his team once he's healthy. Total badass. Mike White was like, "Do I even need?" He was like fighting. He went to like 10 different doctors to try to get cleared to play against the Lions, and he's like, gotten to the point where he's like, "Dude, do I even need a doctor's clearance?" And they tell me I can't play. He's like,
Right.
"Dude, like I can play." He's like, "Well, you have shattered ribs, so maybe you can't play." But he's like, he went to 10 different doctors, just hoping one of them would, write the give him the okay. So total badass there, tough dude. Respect Mike White. Zach Wilson would for sure not be doing that. Um, he would be hanging out with some moms though.
Well,
Um,
that's what He'll have plenty of free time this season
he'll
is
have
the not
plenty of free
starting
time to go.
quarterback to go
Yeah.
hunt some milfs for sure.
But I'm gonna pick the Jags too. I think
um,
Trevor Lawrence is playing too well not to give
yeah,
them.
I think they're playing. I mean, it stinks for the Jets, right? They're playing two really hot teams that are also hungry for the playoffs back to back. Falcons Ravens. I think just with the way the Falcons have been playing, I mean, for the fact that this year's Saints team was able to beat them. Yeah, I think this is a Ravens win. At Ravens, Ravens have a lot more to play for right now, trying to stay ahead. So I'm gonna go
I'm gonna
Ravens.
pick the Ravens as well, but this is gonna be a close game, very low scoring probably. Um, and I still don't think Lamar is back yet. I think he's gonna miss this game as well. I think he's questionable. Um, but yeah, I think they whatever they find him, but this game's gonna suck. I don't even really want to watch it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I probably won't. Right? Can only watch so many 1 o'clock games at once. So, and at the same time, the Lions will be at the Panthers, and that game has a lot more stakes in my world, and I'm gonna go Lions. As we said, right? Like I don't think this is a walk in the park by any means. I doubt the Lions organization thinks it's a walk in the park, but I do think that they have all the tools they need to get it done against the Panthers.
Scary game, trap game. Um, I just screams trap game to me. This is really it makes me nervous because if the Lions can just get out of this one and I just want to get this one over with. I do not want to lose this game because then it just puts so much pressure on the final two that are I think tougher games. Um, but I'm gonna pick the Lions. They just seem like everything's starting to go their way, and I don't know. It just feels like almost like destiny, and it just feels like proving me wrong is part of their story.
Just spiting everybody that didn't give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
We got Bills at Bears. Look, Bills are no stranger to cold weather, as we saw this past week. They are playing some of their best football. There's no reason the Bills lose this game, in my opinion.
Another trap game though, because the Bills have some big games coming up after, and they're probably going to underestimate Chicago. Similarly, how they underestimated Detroit on Thanksgiving. But like you said, they're the Bills. They're used to that weather. Justin Fields doesn't really have much protection. I don't even know who Justin Fields is throwing the ball to right now because everybody's hurt. Like I literally couldn't tell you one of the receivers that are going to start. Their top 3, 4 receivers are all out.
Yeah,
So
I
he's in
literally don't know
trouble.
who he's throwing to.
He's just like running for his life. That's why he's putting up these rushing numbers. I'm gonna pick the Bills here pretty confidently.
Saints at Browns. Again, if the Saints win this game and Tampa loses to the Cardinals, which I don't think is likely, the Saints will then be the leaders of the division.
Are you
And
sure? Because don't the Bucks have a tiebreaker, or are they not
no,
going to be
no,
tied?
because they're 1-1 against each other, aren't they? Or am I crazy?
I thought the
Or are they
Bucks
on
beat them
two?
twice.
You might be right, and I could be wrong. They might have the tiebreaker. Either way, I'm going Saints because I still don't think they're out of it.
I'm pretty sure they beat
I
them
don't know. I
twice.
don't have my story straight. Look, there's going to be at least one time a podcast I'm just spreading blatant misinformation.
Maybe you're just trying to convince yourself that the Saints are going to get in. So you're
Yeah,
speaking it into
no,
existence.
I'm absolutely being biased and just making shit up because they want
Yeah,
the Saints to
dude.
have the best possible look for sure.
I
So
I that's why I've talked so strongly all year about the Chargers, even when they looked horrible, even and about the Bills too, even when they look
just
bad.
got to
Be-
manifest it.
Because I'm manifesting that those two teams, I would just love to see a Bills Chargers AFC Championship game in Buffalo. It would be sick.
That would be
So,
sick.
um, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Browns though. They just seem to play better
Yeah,
overall as a
it's
team
just
than the
because you're a
Saints.
huge Deshaun Watson fan is actually why you're picking him.
I'm not a
So
huge Deshaun Watson fan, but I think that he's better than Andy Dalton.
I'd hate
So
to
that's my
say
pick.
that I agree with you on that, but yeah, I definitely agree with you
Hey,
on
Andy
that.
Dalton, better guy. Deshaun Watson, better quarterback. Fair?
Yeah, fair. We'll agree on that one for sure. Seahawks at Chiefs. Uh, I'm gonna say Chiefs here, and again, very good for the Lions playoff situation if the Seahawks lose. So good stuff there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs as well. Could expect to see a big game. I feel like Seattle's struggled right stopping the pass for a few weeks here. And Mahomes, it seems like I don't know. It just seems like there's some frustration for the Kansas City having a couple close games in a row. I feel like they're due for one of those blowout, like
hmm
dominating wins. So
Um, Giants at Vikings. This game's huge, 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 huge. I'm gonna go Vikings here again. Just biasing towards the Lions.
I'm actually gonna go Giants, and I don't want the Giants to win. Don't get it twisted. I'm not picking who I want to win. Um, this I don't know. I just feel like the matchup wise is like New York can kind of run the ball a little bit, plays pretty good defense, has a good pass rush. Um, they're obviously going to be hungrier than the Vikings. The Vikings have already clinched their division. They've already got their home game. They're coming off of an unbelievable win. I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a hangover from that, and the Giants absolutely need this win. So I'm going to pick the Giants.
Bengals at Patriots. Based off of the Patriots showing last week, I don't even have to think twice about this one. I think the Bengals are going to win.
The Patriots are dead. That was like Mac Jones is buried. The
Man,
legend
it's not
has it.
even Mac. He just, and you can tell, and these Lions fans know it all too well, the contempt that he holds for Matt Patricia, because that dude's a turd.
I mean, John, he's literally buried. Like he's still in the grass like
No,
he's
from
still
from
underneath.
from Chandler Jones
Oh
just
yeah, yeah,
pile
yeah. Well,
driving
I'm
him
not
into the.
blaming Mac Jones by any means, but he is still, legend has it, there. Like he's not even, he's still 6 feet under. So they're dead, done. Although I have heard question of the day too. If we look back, does Zappy make that tackle? I feel like Zappy has more
Zappy's
athleticism.
got that
Slash,
dog in him. He makes that
I
tackle.
feel like he makes the tackle, and
If
we
it
go to
even means
overtime.
just like hanging on to Jones's ankle, just so that he can't go anywhere and
I
somebody can
actually
get
think
clean
there's a
up.
chance that Zappy would have went up and mossed Chandler Jones and scored. Like, I don't know. I mean, if New England fans out there
All
think
right.
otherwise, let me know. But I mean, maybe Zappy's the guy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Moss Chandler, and then threw like a 60-yard pass back to Myers for the touchdown.
Which would have been illegal because the ball had already crossed the line of scrimmage. So
Oh,
you
that's
can't
true.
throw it forwards.
All
He
right.
would have to run 60 yards. And I
No, no,
think
no. So,
even
so no. You misunderstand me. Myers would have ran back behind the line of scrimmage, and
gotcha,
then Zappy could
gotcha.
then
And then he
lateral
gives it
it.
back to Myers, who scores.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that that's more likely to happen with Zappy back there.
yeah,
But Mac
definitely.
Jones, we saw what happens when Mac Jones is your last line of defense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Not the guy you want to
we
put
know
out
that
there.
Zappy's a future first ballot Hall of Famer. So yeah, this is a done deal here. Zappy would have definitely won that game. Texans at Titans. You know what? I'm gonna go Texans here because they've come so close, and I think the Titans need to just be formally, officially embarrassed. Right? They've been losing to some good teams. Everybody's still giving them the benefit of the doubt. I just think they need to get clobbered by the worst team in their division, and be embarrassed and know that no, this division is not theirs, and no, this is not the same team that was the first seed in the AFC last year.
I like how you're attacking Tennessee. I don't understand where your anger is coming from towards them. However, I love it. Um, I will say this though, John, you're forgetting about one thing. Tannehill's a maybe. I don't know if he's going to play. Derrick Henry tends to rush for a lot of yards against Houston every single time they play, and Houston's given up a lot of rushing yards in recent weeks. Um, I just feel like this is one of those games that the Titans will win because they'll just give it. That's the only way they can win
The
is if they just
the
ride
odds are in
Derrick
the
Henry.
Titans' favor 100%. And also my hatred for the Titans comes from the fact that they just fail to live up to their potential. And that just annoys me because they should be a better team and they should win more games. And I feel like their offensive coordinator, Todd Downing, should be fired. He probably should have been fired before the GM, if we're being honest. And
Well, they're
I
cursed,
think
John,
Vrabel
because
deserves better.
they're cursed because they did AJ Brown dirty.
Right.
You treat your players that are like once in like a decade player that you get that you're lucky enough to draft and have like shit, and your franchise will be bad. I mean, I think the Lions have had a curse for many other reasons, but how they treated Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders is a large reason as to why I think they suck for so
No,
long because we have
I
two.
don't disagree with you, but I also think that Bobby Lane is the true curse. And again, I just need to hammer this home for those that don't know. Peyton Manning in Ford Field exercised the curse of Bobby Lane on television. We all saw it happen, and ever since then the Lions are 6-1. Coincidence? I mean,
It's up for you to decide. I think that the Lions were for sure cursed, and very
and a
well that
Hall of
could be
Fame
what.
quarterback actually decided to try to lift the curse, which apparently is the first person that's tried to actually take the curse seriously and lift it. And all of a
Oh, I've
sudden, we're gonna.
tried several times, but I'm not
Oh,
Peyton
you're
Manning.
you're not Peyton Manning. Your name doesn't. Bobby Lane was sleeping in the afterlife. Or he's still alive, isn't he? I don't know.
Who knows? Rest in peace if he's dead. If he's alive, we wish you
and,
many, many years of good health and wealth.
and sorry again for spreading this information on the podcast.
We
Neither
can't
direction,
tell the
but
people of this podcast that people are dead if they're not dead, John. You know?
especially because we do this podcast on the internet, and like it can just take me.
Hey, eventually he'll die and you'll be right. Rest in peace, Bobby Lane.
Oh, he died 40 years ago.
Okay. All right. So rest in peace, Bobby Lane.
Rest in peace, and
May he rest in
he
peace.
and he was 100% was not listening to your calls to end the Lions curse. But
For
when Peyton
sure. He
Manning,
doesn't. But when Peyton Manning talks, the football legends listen. You know,
right?
and clearly Bobby Lane decided to listen to Peyton Manning. Rest in peace again. May God rest his soul. We do not mean to offend the dead here. We don't want
No, we
our
don't.
podcast to be
And
cursed.
and we want to show appreciation for Bobby to
Yes. Yes.
decide that roughly 60 years was enough, and it was time to lift the curse. So thank
And
you.
we're not trying to undo Peyton Manning's uplifting, right? Like
No.
we want this removed curse
Uh,
to stay removed. We're not
Again, Mark,
asking
we are
for it
we are
back.
dust in the wind in comparison to the higher powers at play
Yeah, but
here.
it
So
just feels like
I don't
you
think
messing with Bobby Lane is not a good idea for
I'm not
Lions.
messing with him. I just didn't know if he was dead or not. It's not my fault.
I think you're messing with him. He's turning in his grave right now. He's like, I'm gonna put the curse back on these Lions.
No, no. Look,
Bobby
he's
Lane wants to see me take the ACT and the Lions
yes.
win 0 more games. He wants to see that.
I
That's
don't
what he
know.
wants.
I think he's stoked that we're still talking about him when he would have been, just kind of lost with time had he had not placed the curse on the Lions. So I think
True.
he's stoked that, we're crediting the Lions' success to hit his good graces in the afterlife. So
True. Rest in peace, Bobby Lane.
where were we?
I
moving
don't
on
know.
moving on to Commanders 49ers. I'm gonna go 49ers here. We just spent 6 minutes talking about a dead guy's curse, by the way.
Hey, Bobby Lane's a legend. You know, he deserves his 6 minutes of talk. I think people will
That's true.
appreciate us talking about the legend of Bobby Lane.
Absolutely. Um, and I'm gonna
I'm
go
also picking the
49ers.
49ers. I'm
Yeah,
also picking the 49ers.
that's not. Don't
It's
even have to think about that
it's
one.
Purdy time in it's time to Purdy Hurdy in San Francisco.
Was there supposed to be a pun there, or you just
Yes, Purdy like Party Hardy from Dahmer. I don't you
Purdy
probably didn't
Hurdy?
watch Dahmer.
I
Do you
didn't
know what I'm
watch
talking about?
Dahmer. No, did. Isn't he the one that like ate people too? Like I'm not trying to
Yeah,
watch
he was
that.
a yeah, it's totally messed up. Not really up your uh taste, but it is on like a sick mind. So
Well,
for
see,
me
I
it was
like
like
horror movies when they're not real. Like I watch Saw. I love Saw. But like if it's about like some shit some dude actually did on this planet Earth, like I'm good on all that. Like I don't
yeah,
care.
I'm the opposite of you. It's intrigues and see their stories and stuff. It's crazy because it's just like no human would ever do that, but yet it happens and it's
Right.
real. And that like the realness of it always makes me want to watch it more. And anyway, there's a pun in it. The actor who plays Dahmer, like as he tries to pick up these guys and take them back to his bar, like he'd like to say "party hardy," and so I said "pretty hurdy"
Because it's horror movie
because
time
because
for
it's
the commander.
Brock Purdy.
Right.
You get
And
it?
because Brock Purdy, I get it. I get it.
Sorry. I wish that you just knew it and I didn't have to explain it. I hope people out there know what I'm saying and that like that pun hits home for some people. Probably not. Total miss. My bad. You missed on Bobby Lane. I missed on the pun. Let's
I
be
think
safe.
honestly the people listening are just like, "Oh, holy shit. Like can you guys get through these games so I can go home." Eagles Cowboys. I'm gonna with the way the Cowboys have been playing, I'm gonna go Eagles here. Uh,
Oh, give me the Cowboys.
all right,
Jalen
all
Hurts
right.
out. Come on.
Hey, look, we could have another Cooper Rush situation. We'll see. Just in the inverse. Raiders at Steelers. Both these teams are 6-8. I don't know if they think they have any. I know mathematically their playoff hopes are alive, but I don't know if in their heads like they're really
Dude,
thinking that's the
the
case.
Raiders got an absolute gift handed to them last week. I feel like they're riding pretty high right now. I'm gonna pick the
Yeah,
Raiders.
I'm going Raiders as well on that. Which would solidify, by the way, Tomlin's first losing season in his career, which would be wild. Packers at Dolphins, 1 o'clock Christmas Day. That's gonna be so awesome. I cannot wait for that one. And I'm gonna go Dolphins. The Dolphins have lost 3 straight against very good teams and have played very good games against all 3 of those very good teams, but just haven't gotten it done. I think they're due for one. And while the Packers have been playing better football, it's at Miami. It's time to put them to bed.
I'm also going to pick Miami. Also, we haven't said it, but yeah, Merry Christmas. I know it doesn't feel like Christmas yet because we're recording this Tuesday night. Comes out Wednesday at noon, but um, yeah, I mean, this episode is going to take us into Christmas and the holidays. Hope everyone has a good holiday season watching some football. Always cool to have some football going on during the holidays. Um, but we wish
Yeah,
all our
I'm
listeners a
personally
Merry
excited
Christmas.
to watch some football with my dad. Right, living in DC, I don't get those opportunities, and it's weird, man. Something you take for granted, like especially you know this. You're by your dad's side when football's going on
Yeah.
90% of the time, and then like for that to not be the case on a weekly basis, it definitely is weird. So very much looking forward to that family time. Broncos at Rams. I'm going to go Broncos.
Um, I'm actually going to go. This is a tough one. I'm gonna go Broncos as well. I feel like Baker's gonna struggle really badly against that defense.
You have been blindly picking Broncos this entire season, and it's just weird to watch you hesitate against the
We all
four
knew I
win
was gonna
Rams.
pick him, you
Yeah,
know?
it's it's funny the flipping mentality for whatever reason. Buccaneers at Cardinals. I don't want the Bucks to win this game, but I think they will, so I'm gonna go Bucks.
I'm also gonna go Bucks, but not with a lot of confidence. I don't know what it is. Like the Bucks have one of the worst running games we've ever seen in the history of the NFL. It's like pretty
Their
damn bad.
offense is purely one dimensional right now, and
Like
if
Tom
Tom
Brady's
Brady were
throwing like 45 passes a game right now.
Yeah,
It's
and if
ridiculous.
it wasn't if it was literally anybody else, like they'd be dead in the water. And then last game we got here is Chargers Colts, and with the way the Chargers have been playing, I don't see any reason why they lose that game. So
I'm gonna be very upset if the Chargers lose to the Colts because uh I want to see the Chargers in the playoffs really badly. And
I do too.
the Colts piss me off, dude, because of how everything has happened with Jeff Saturday and with Matt Ryan. I don't know. They're just easy to root against. You know, they used to be a team I kind of wanted to see win, and they've just completely lost everything that they used to stand for and were
They're a
really
skeleton
competitive.
of once they
Dude, they
of
were
what
so
they once were.
competitive like, last year and then they
Even with
choked
the
at the end of the
quarterback
season.
carousel, but then it's like, oh, you're gonna keep doing this? You're not gonna try to pin down like a franchise guy. You're not even gonna try to draft a franchise guy. Like you're giving them no weapons at receiver. So then your entire offense is just offensive line. Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor gets hurt.
Yeah.
I don't understand the
The
plan. It just
the sudden retirement of Andrew Luck was a fair excuse for a few years, but that's expired, you know? Like,
yeah, it's been 3 years now. Like, come
yeah.
on. Or four is it 4 years now?
I think it's been 4 years.
4 years now. Yeah. Um Yeah, no, it's a bummer because again, like, they were kind of a team I'd like, sort of root for, at least just enjoyed watching to play. Cause like you're saying, like good organization, good team, players that you could get behind and like all those staples are gone and they're just a skeleton. So it stinks. They should just embrace the rebuild at this rate. So let's hopefully see Chargers make the playoffs, man. Last year I know was an absolute heartbreaker for them. And I think they deserve to get in. So they're healthy, they're playing well. See what happens. That wraps up episode 21 of the Practice Squad podcast. We appreciate everybody listening. We got some good content on the way. I think we're getting a lot better of keeping a cadence on clipping and social media and that stuff on top of the long form podcast. So we appreciate everybody's engagement across all mediums. We do not discriminate. We just appreciate getting people's attention where we do get it.
We'll take it where we can get it, you know? But how about 21 episodes, John? 21 episodes going into Christmas. Hope everyone has a happy holiday and gives us a listen and enjoys their time with families and friends and
Yep.
enjoy some football.
Enjoy some football, enjoy some time with your family, and know that we will be here just a few days after the fact to recap what I'm sure is going to be another crazy week of games.
Another
So,
great weekend, hopefully.
yes, sir. Until next time, everybody. Peace.